Hey guys, this is the Diesel Queen. I have some exciting news for you. This March, when you buy a diesel decoder, you will get exclusive access to a question and answer panel with me personally. This is going to be limited to only the people that buy diesel decoders. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys. In addition, you will also be getting 6 months of completely free access to the diesel repair platform, which is called the Wikipedia of truck repair. And on top of that, you will also be getting a voucher to go to one of our top training classes in the United States. It's an in-person training class. This only lasts through March, and it's only available with the people that buy the Diesel Laptops decoder. Don't wait. Sign up for it if you've been waiting on buying it or waiting to figure out if you want it or not. March is the month to get it. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Overhauled with me, the Diesel Queen. Today I am here with a man named Brad, who is a third generation mechanic, and he has worked his way up into running his own business now. So please welcome Brad onto the show. And Brad, if you want to give us a little bit of a background on how you got to where you're at.
Thanks, Melissa. I started helping my grandparents when I was younger. Both of them were diesel mechanics. So I just fell in love with it, and then went to trade school, worked for several dealerships, several shops. And after having kids, I decided I didn't want my kids to work as hard as I did coming up. So I started my own business. We do on-site service, road service, anything that has to do with a truck, we can do it.
Do you guys have a shop too, or is it just field service?
No, we just do field service.
Okay. So something that you and I kind of covered before we started rolling was a point that we brought up was switching over from the dealership world into what kind of would be considered the private industry or the third party industry of, side of the industry. So for you, you went to a trade school, you worked at dealerships. That's a really common path for everybody. So what challenges did you have trying to start your own business, and what challenges do you still face not being in a dealership?
One of them was just income, having all the specialty tools, software that you actually need. And then just learning the new stuff. I mean, having to run office, and where then I'd say I spent most of my time in the shop, not in the office doing paperwork. Now I have to do both.
Mm-hmm. How is that kind of trying to juggle being a mechanic and being in the office at the same time?
It's very difficult. That phone gets on your nerves.
Oh my God, yes.
You're trying to
feel that.
And the phone rings.
Yep. Well, you can't have big jobs, right? Like you can't work on big jobs because you're constantly getting pulled away from that to answer the phone.
Right. Most of what we do a lot of service, brake work, a lot of road service. That's my main goal, is just get these trucks off the side of the road.
Yeah.
And right now, with the new technology coming out, as an independent, we're falling short in training because we don't know.
And why is that? Like, how is that? Can you explain to everybody how, like, why you feel like you guys are kind of falling short compared to the rest of the industry?
Well, it's hard for me to justify, or any shop, that small independent guy, to send somebody to school to learn some of this new stuff. And a lot of independent shops, including myself, why do we want to send somebody to school when they may quit in 2 weeks? A different shop offers money to come down there right after you've done sent them to school, and then they just jump ship and go. So you fall far behind. And as a business owner, I just can't shut my doors to go learn this stuff. I'm just lucky. I have friends that still work at dealerships and other shops that I can pick up the phone and call and say, "Hey, I got a question,"
Yeah.
which
Well,
helps
as a
out.
dealership mechanic, we got those calls from people like you all the time. And, there's some dealerships that are very, very anti phone help, right? There's some dealerships that are not going to help you if you call them. I always had the mindset of, and for the most part, the dealerships I worked at kind of had the same mindset too, is if you help these independent people and genuinely help them, when they have a big issue, like their engine blows up or they can't figure it out, or, they need transmission work or something that's major, guess who they're going to fucking take it to, right? They're going to take it to the dealership that actually tried to put in the effort to help them. I've sent wiring diagrams to independent people like you. I've sent hydraulic schematics. I've sent code diagnostic procedures, all kinds of stuff like that to try and help people out. But there's not, as I'm sure you know, not all dealerships are like that, especially if you don't have an inside person.
No, I'm just lucky at the dealerships I've worked at. I still have friends there that we can still pick up the phone and call
Yeah.
and ask questions, and they'll get you anything you want. But there's like you said, some of the dealers will not. They refuse, and that hurts us in the long run.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. It's got to be hard to feel like you have to rely on that. Like you can't truly, from what I'm gathering from you, you don't feel like you're truly independent from the dealerships because you still rely on having people inside the dealership to help you out.
Oh yeah, I mean, just because I've fallen behind in the training on the new stuff.
Yeah.
That's another reason we've stepped back away from doing any major engine work anymore.
Yep.
Uh, all the tooling's expensive. And then the new rebuilding the new DD15, I've heard horror stories on, and I keep going, why do I want to do that? I can make more money doing quick stuff, quick jobs, than I can spending 40 hours doing an in-frame.
Yep. Well, in frames, like I don't know about the trucking industry, but in the equipment industry, well, most of us don't do in frames because the machines just don't allow it, right? You can't get to the oil pan and you can't get to everything with the engine still bolted in. That's just doesn't happen usually in equipment. But even if you take it to the extent of, you take the engine out and you do an overhaul, such like a standard overhaul, right? Nothing fancy, you know, most of the time you don't touch the camshaft bushings. Most of the time you're not replacing a camshaft, things like that. The crankshaft's fine. If you're just doing a standard overhaul, dealerships especially have pretty much just completely cut that out. As a professional, in a dealership, I've only actually done a professional rebuild in the industry twice in my 7 years I was in the industry. Everything else was a short block or a long block or a complete engine because not only does John Deere sets it up like that because dealerships, and I think most shops do this, is the labor is only warranted for like 90 days, where you buy a complete engine from John Deere and that's warranted for 2 years. So as a customer, you're sitting there like, well, that's worth it. That's worth way more than, you know, if I try to trust some Joe Smo in the fucking shop to rebuild my engine and he fucks it up. If in 90 days, if it doesn't fuck up in 90 days, I'm fucked and I'm out of a $75,000 engine again. So, it's so the whole like falling behind in the training, that's something that, I've always pushed people and I've always told people this is like, as a mechanic, you learn something new every day and you are constantly learning. The industry is constantly changing. We are beyond the point of mechanical fueled, mechanically timed engines and mechanical engines and simple gear transmissions. We are way beyond that. Right, especially the heavy equipment and the trucks and the electronics that go into this and the after treatment is constantly changing.
And what you've brought up is that you don't have the resources to really keep up with that. So you've had to cut your workload and cut certain things out of your workload because you just simply not between mechanics not sticking around long enough to, make a training worth it, and then not being able to go to training yourself. You've kind of almost been forced to cut that down into, you know, excluding things like engines and stuff like that.
Correct. I mean, I'll still do like water pumps, turbos, stuff like that. But if I build a motor or if I hire somebody to help and we build an end frame, it gets out to California and it blows up because of something we did wrong. Well, that's bankrupt. And then,
Yep.
so the liability of it now ain't worth it either.
Yeah. Well, and things go wrong, right? You can be the best mechanic in the world and fuck something up or have something go wrong. And, like you said, an engine's like, especially them big engines are like 70, 75 grand for a new engine, you know? So that's another thing that's kept me from trying to start my own heavy equipment shop is because that's what I want to do. I want to do axles and transmissions and engines, but it's the liability of that is so insane. You fuck up one of those components and then you're bankrupt in the water. And shit happens, right? Especially like these John Deere transmissions are so fucking complex. Like if even the guys that have 20 years of experience working on John Deere tractors tear these fucking transmissions apart. They have the manuals, they have DTAC, they have every single resource possible, and I've still seen them fuck it up and have to take it back apart.
Everybody fucks up every once in a while. It's going to happen. If you do it long enough, you're going to screw something up. You just learn from your mistake. Going.
I've always told people that the only true mistake you make as a mechanic is doing something twice. Is making a mistake twice. That is the only true failure and true mistake as a mechanic is doing it twice.
Oh yeah. And I have to drill it in my son's head. If you don't feel confident doing it, don't do it.
Yeah. Or find somebody that is confident to help you and guide you.
Yeah. Or we'll do it together. You'll learn from it. And then the next one's yours, whichever way you want to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you I don't know how much of my podcast you watched, but I had my original shop, my original John Deere service manager on here at the very first dealership I worked at. And, what he always said is, with these new kids and these new people, you spend about 6 months kind of learning what they're good at and kind of getting a feel for what type of mechanic they are. And then you intentionally give them something that is a little over their head and see how they do. And see, if they fuck it up, then they learn to fix their fuck up, and then you wait a little bit and let them grow a little bit more, and then you give them something else that might be a little bit over their head to kind of help that growth of your mechanics out of the, beginner mechanic into the level 2 and the level 3s. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm doing the same way with my son, but he's 14, but he wants to learn it. So
yeah,
if you want to learn it, go for it. You're
yep.
going to mess up. I'd rather for him to do a wheel seal and screw up on a wheel seal versus an engine.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be anywhere. I mean, or any entry level tech.
Yeah, well, that's a common misconception that a lot of kids have nowadays leaving trade schools because they were in these trade schools and they're rebuilding engines or they're tearing apart engines and they're doing all these major component. I mean, I did it in Wyotech. When I went to Wyotech, we tore apart transmissions like the Eden Fuller 18 speeds and shit like that. We tore apart all those transmissions and put them back together, and we had engines we tore apart and put back together. And then in Advanced Diesel, I actually rebuilt with my little team. We rebuilt a C15 Acer out of a fucking 379 Peterbilt. And so you get kind of this high confidence of like, I can do this shit, right? And I think a lot of people, when I entered the industry, I've always been kind of a humble person, right? I've always been just give me the work, let me prove myself. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's oil changes. I don't care what it is. Just give me the work and let me prove myself. Let me work. I love these machines. I love what I do. Just give me work. But there's some kids that enter this industry that they did these big jobs with obviously the advisement of instructors in these tech schools, and then they enter the industry and they're only doing oil changes for the first 2 months, and they're like, what the fuck? It gives them a false conception of what they need to expect. Nobody, no dealership and no private industry, no shop owner is going to give a kid fresh out of fucking college an engine rebuild or any kind of major engine work or major transmission work. No one's going to do that. You have to earn that. And there's a lot of kids nowadays that don't want to take those steps in between, the learning curve and the learning process in between oil changes and batteries and pre-delivery inspections and stuff like that to engine rebuilds, transmission rebuilds, axle rebuilds, shit like that. They don't want to take those in between learning steps. And to me, it's frustrating to work with those kids.
Yeah, well, they come into a shop with a big head. Fresh out of school, I know it all.
Yep.
Well, you don't know it all. You learn something different every day.
Yep.
So,
Well, in 1 year of trade school is not going to, I think it's more helpful than just throwing yourself into the industry without the training at all. But it's not going to replace the years it takes to learn a lot of this shit. It's not a replacement for the years of experience.
and I tell some of them, they'll come in, well, I can do this and I can do that. Okay. Do you have the tools to do it? Well, no, I'd have to borrow them. Then why am I going to put you on that job if you don't have the tools to do that job?
Well, especially in the private industry, you don't have a big giant tool area full of dealership provided tools.
No. And tools have gotten dadgum outrageous.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it's not even just Snap-on. It's all of them, like Matco and Cornwell and Mac. They are all like equally as expensive as Snap-on. Like, so you can't fucking escape it. It's not even just Snap-on. It makes me laugh because guys on TikTok, they're always doing the rate van, Snap-on kind of jokes all the time. That mechanics make jokes on Snap-on all the time, right? That's like the age-old fucking joke of getting screwed over by Snap-on because of the prices of the tools. And it's not just Snap-on. The toolboxes in Matco are the exact same price as a fucking Snap-on. And like every now and then you'll come across things of like, I bought my Cornwell 3/4 inch impact. I bought a Cornwell one for a 3/4 inch drive air impact. And that was $550. But if I would have bought the IR one on that tool truck, which was like the nicer one, because Cornwell sells IR, right? If I would have bought the IR one, that would have been just the exact same price as the Snap-on 3/4 inch drive. So it's like, I don't know. It's ridiculous. I tell my boyfriend all the time, like, dude, I got like fucking $150,000 worth of fucking tools sitting in that shop out there. Like, and that's not even joking because I've got fucking 4 toolboxes. I got 2 toolboxes, 2 carts, and then they are all full. They are all full of shit.
I called me and my son was on vacation, and I called my Snap-on man. I said, "Hey, I want to buy that box you had on the truck the other day." He said, "Okay," and I'm on vacation. And when we got back and my son seen it, I said, "Yep, that's your college education sitting there." I mean, he's like, "No way." I said, "Yep, that's 10 grand sitting right there."
Yep. I got lucky. The first toolbox I ever bought was in Wyotech. They give you like a 50% off Snap-on tools deal, and then you get a truck loan, right, based on your credit and all that shit. And so I got a loan through Snap-on through Wyotech for, I think it was like $6,800, half off Snap-on tools, which I got a double bay Snap-on toolbox that was black, just a basic black double bay toolbox. And then I got I got a bunch of hand wrenches and sockets and ratchets and I think I got my 1/2-inch drive air impact that time around. I bought a couple, I actually used that to buy my set of big 3/4-inch drive sockets, shallow sockets, impact sockets, all kinds of stuff like that. And it took me 3 years to pay that off. And the only reason I got it paid off in 3 years is because I had a family tragedy that had a payout, and I used it to pay off the rest of my debt. So, then when I went to go get another toolbox, because I had outgrown that toolbox, I had the double bay toolbox, and then I got a cart, like my little green tool cart, and then that filled up pretty fucking fast. And I was out of space, and I needed a bigger toolbox, and I just happened to find a Matco guy that had a Snap-on toolbox that was a trade-in, and he only wanted $3,800 for it. It was a triple bay, that big red and black one I have. That's the one I bought off Matco for $3,800, which I ended up trading in my other toolbox. So it was like my toolbox and then like $1,600 worth of cash. And that's the only reason, guys, I have a fucking triple bay Snap-on toolbox. That is the only reason I have. It is not worth. I don't fucking understand the point of spending 15 grand on a brand new triple bay toolbox. I just don't get it. I mean, I get it, right? Because it's pretty and it's nice and it's new. But it's not about the toolbox. It's about the tools that are in it.
I tell kids all the time, don't worry about buying a toolbox. Go to Sears, Craftsman, Lowe's, Harbor Freight. Buy a cheap box. Invest your money in your tools, because you got to have tools to do the work. You can do hell. I used old cheap toolbox up until a year ago, and the thinking I thought about was, I've been doing this 27 years. I'm going to own a nice toolbox before I retire.
Well, at that point, it's not necessarily about, I'm going to either spend my money on a toolbox or I'm going to spend my money on tools I need. You already have the tools you need. I watch a lot of kids nowadays that they're like, oh, well, I have like the most basic set of tools possible, but I'm going to go and buy a $10,000 toolbox and I'm going to fill up 2 drawers of that, right, with tools. It's like, bro, that $10,000 that you just spent on that toolbox could have gotten you so many tools that you need. So many tools that you need. And obviously these are kids that are just starting in the industry. I understand wanting to have a nice box, and the Snap-on boxes really do. The name brand boxes are so much nicer. I've worked with a lot of people that have off-brand toolboxes, and it's just, they roll nice. The drawers are nice. If they break, the Snap-on man fixes it for free. Like I love my Snap-on boxes. I really do. I love them. But I would never trade a toolbox and spend money on a toolbox if I needed tools, right? The only reason I have a big triple bay Snap-on toolbox is because it was cheap as fuck and I needed more storage space. And I managed to get away with getting this for $1,600. That's a pretty damn good fucking deal for a triple bay toolbox, even not name brand. Like, that's the only reason I did that.
Yeah, I mean, kids need to be worried about, when they come into this, buying tools, not big fancy boxes. That'll come.
Yep.
If you're going to do this, buy your tools, invest your time and money in tools. That way, you've got it. You don't have to rely on borrowing from somebody else. Exactly. I come from dealership life where if you borrowed somebody's tool more than twice, you better own it, because you ain't getting it next time.
Yep, that's a rule that like almost all like senior mechanics have. If you borrow my shit more than once or more than twice, you better fucking be buying that motherfucker.
But I know guys at other shops that, they work out of each other's box.
That's fucking ridiculous.
I can't deal with that. That's.
I understand helping people, right? I understand helping people, or sometimes people need to borrow shit. It's a team environment. You work as a team, but you gotta fucking invest your own shit. into your own shit. Because if you leave that shop, what are you going to do? Tell your next boss, oh, well, you know, I just worked out everybody else's toolbox. I have a story of a girl that one of my friends knows that started in a shop with no tools and was just working out of other people's toolboxes. This was a John Deere dealership. Started in a John Deere dealership, straight out of trade school, made no effort to even buy a basic set of tools. She just worked out of everybody else's toolbox, and she thought that was fucking acceptable. She didn't make any effort to try to buy her own box. And John Deere sells boxes, right? You can buy boxes from John Deere dealerships that are decent. She made no effort to buy her own toolboxes, no effort to buy her own tools at all. She just thought it was completely acceptable to work out everybody's toolboxes. And that is just fucking not okay. It's not okay. You need to be as independent as you possibly can be. Even though you're in a shop with other mechanics, you need to be independent as you can be.
Exactly. And it's even my son, you know, he goes out, he'll go to Harbor Freight and buy something if he needs it. If he wants to work on his own truck, he's restoring a truck and he's buying his own tools to do it because he don't want to get in my toolbox or get in the tool truck to get what he's got to have.
Yep.
And when he gets older, he's going to have a nice little setup. It might be cheap Harbor Freight. Some of that stuff's good. I buy it to go on my service truck because I'd rather lose it than I would a $40 snap-on wrench.
Yep. All of my jumbo wrenches, like my big jumbo wrenches, I have a set of angled wrenches and a set of just normal, you know, closed end and open end wrenches. All of my jumbo wrenches are Pittsburgh. Those jumbo sets you buy from Harbor Freight. Because I think I have angled snap-on angle wrenches up to like 1 inch and 5/16, and then everything else is Pittsburgh. And then I have standard wrenches snap-on up to like 1.25 inches, and then everything else is Pittsburgh. Because my Pittsburgh wrenches have never fucking let me down as jumbo wrenches, because they're used for hydraulics, right? That's what you use them for most of the time. And half the time that shit's so tight that you're sitting there hammering on it, right, to try and break the fucking fitting loose and stuff like that. I don't want to do that at that point, if you have that big of a snap-on wrench, that's a $200 wrench.
Oh yeah, all day.
Fuck that. I ain't doing that. Like, I know some guys that are super proud of like their whole giant wrench set that's snap-on. It's like, bro, like, I get wanting to have nice tools. I cannot use, as a mechanic, I am spoiled, and I spoiled myself. I cannot use anything other than snap-on pliers. Every other set of pliers fucking is maddening to me. It just fucking pisses me off. I have Mac ones that I fucking hate, that I thought I wanted, and it turns out I did not. And you know, I love snap-on flank drive plus hand wrenches, and their angle wrenches are patented. So you cannot find another set of angle wrenches with those same angle degrees. There's certain things that I will only buy name brand. But then there's a lot of other shit that you don't need name brand. Like, I've worked with mechanics that have all fucking sets of Pittsburgh shit, and you listen over there and you listen to their fucking ratchet, and it's got like 3 teeth in it, right? And it's like, you listen to it and you're like, bro, how are you not mad? How is this not maddening? But I mean, it's also back to the reality that you don't need an 8,000 toothed wrench or ratchet to get a job done. So
Exactly. Hell, I cut wrenches up all the time, and I'd rather cut a Harbor Freight wrench up than I would a nice snap-on.
I have a whole set of Harbor Freight, like those long ones, those like extra long wrenches. I have a whole set of those specifically for that reason, for cutting them up.
Bending and cutting.
Yep. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you don't have a choice. And yeah. Every now and then I find certain tools that, like, for skid steer pumps, they have like the I don't know if you ever worked on a skid steer, but they got a hydraulic pump stack that bolts onto the back of the engine, and then a little hydraulic pump that's bolted to the hydrostatic pump stack. And to get the hydrostatic pump stack on it, it's got 2 bolts that are 18 millimeter that bolted to the flywheel. And I don't know what the fuck happens when you run that machine, but those things are tighter than a motherfucker. And you can't get on the if you're like facing, I guess, kind of backwards, if you're facing the engine, in the middle of it. The fucking right-hand side bolt is, you can't get to it. You cannot get anything on that except for them half moon wrenches. So I bought specifically a half moon wrench set from Snap-on or Matco. It's Matco. Half moon wrench set that I can sit there and I put it on that bolt and it's so tight I have to take my long pry bar and pry it to break it loose. And then you have to pry it to tighten it because you can't get a wobble socket in there. You can't get a normal wrench in there. You can get an 18mm wrench in there, but not real great. You know, the open end kind of doesn't fit that great. So it just fucking ends up rounding it off. And so that's kind of my rule is like, you know, with specialty tools like that and name brand is if it really actually makes a difference in your job, then get it. But if it's not actually going to make that big of a difference, then probably not worth it.
That's like specialty tools, you know, at these dealerships. And the independent guy, we got to make that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the reason we buy the cheap stuff, so we can make it.
Yep. Yeah, dealerships I mean, we have, obviously, you know, you still make tools. When I worked at that first Honda shop I worked at, we had an 870, which is an 87 metric ton excavator that had a bucket cylinder that needed resealed. And the nut on that motherfucker was like this big for the piston nut. And we had the hydraulic torque bench, we had like the hydraulic, all that shit, but we did not have a fucking socket big enough for that. And I actually made a socket with flat stock, like thick ass fucking flat stock, and I welded a fucking socket for this motherfucker. And we welded that, like, we welded that, and then we welded a plate onto it with a little cutout that we could hook the hydraulic cylinder, like pin the hydraulic cylinder to it. And we made that. We're a dealership. We are a John Deere dealership, and we had to make that, which that is like my pride and joy because that was like literally 25,000 PSI we had to torque that thing to, and it held. So I'm like I was super proud of that because I don't claim to be a welder by any means. I know how to weld, but I don't claim to be some phenomenal fucking welder. But you got to be innovative, right? And I'm sure in the private world, you guys got to be even more innovative, obviously, than the dealerships.
Oh yeah, we just can't run back there and get what specialty tool we need.
Yep. I'm sure, like, do you guys make like your own seal installers and shit like that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Block of wood and hammer. We've used it to put rear main seals in. When I worked for Cummins, you know, I bought all my specialty tools just so I would have, because you'd go back there to the back room a lot of times, they wasn't there.
Yeah, and then you got to hunt down every fucking tool bench in the shop trying to find who has it.
Yeah. Yes.
It's annoying.
After doing that, I just started buying everything I need. Even now, like on the DD15s, DD13s, you got the fuel line. They make a socket to take those out. You can use a crow's foot to get them out. But I figured, well, I got on Amazon one day. They're $10.
Fucking worth it.
Spend the $10 for the specialty tool and be done with it.
Yep. Yep, that's worth it for sure. There's a couple, like, I've bought a couple of John Deere specialty tools. I've bought they have this little seal puller slide hammer, which is like, it's just a little slide hammer that's this big. And it's got a little end on it that you can hook a self-tapping screw into. And if you have the room to use that, it works fucking amazing for seals, for pulling seals out. I fucking love that thing. I bought that thing, and then I bought the 13.5 camshaft timing tools, which are like the camshaft pin and the crankshaft pin. And then, because that's actually an overhead cam engine. And then they have these little teeny tiny feeler gauges specifically for adjusting valves on that. And I bought that set because I got really fucking tired of the same thing. I'd go back in the tool room to try and find, we have like 10 sets of these motherfuckers, and they're nowhere to be found. No one knows where they are. So I just finally got tired of it and bought my own set. I've got an injector on those old, like 6076 engines with the big fucking nozzles. I think it's 6076, but they got the big nozzles with the big, like, multi-sided fucking like 12-point head on it, and I bought the tool for that. But as a dealership, it's kind of, I don't know. Those tools are fucking expensive too, even for a dealership mechanic. Those
Oh,
tools
yeah.
are freaking pricey.
Exactly. That's the reason. Again, we fall short. We don't have the luxury of all that stuff.
Yeah.
We
Well,
just
I've even run into, like, with my Cummins truck that I have, my 2nd gen, I went ahead and I bit the bullet and I bought the front main seal installer tools for that. And I bought the camshaft gear or the fuel pump gear removal tool. And those weren't that expensive, honestly. Those really weren't that bad, but I just went ahead and bit the bullet and did it because I got really tired of, like, I did the same thing. I would use, like, makeshift shit to try and do a front main seal, or, sit there with a fucking rubber mallet trying to get the gear to come off the front of the fuel pump. And I finally just bought those tools, and I think the fuel pump tool was like $7. Worth it. Completely worth it.
especially if you're
It's just
going,
a plate and 2 bolts that, like, pulls the fucking gear off. It's fucking completely worth it.
especially if you're going to use it more than once.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and get it.
Yeah. Which I have 2 of those trucks, and we all know the infamous VP44. So obviously I'm gonna be using that more than once.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I got my own opinion on the VP44. I personally think if you have a low pressure fuel system that is adequate, you probably will never have an issue. But I mean, shit, I had that truck, that maroon truck I have that has 380 some thousand miles on it, and I didn't put a new fuel pump on it until, like, I don't know, 5,000 miles ago. And actually, it didn't fix my problem. Granted, I wanted an upgraded one, so that's why part of the reason why I did it, because there were some performance things I wanted at the same time. But the original fuel pump was actually good. So but I had an AirDog fuel system on that for years. So I think it's Cummins' shortfall is not the VP44. The VP44, in my opinion, is not the fucking problem. It is their shit fucking low pressure fuel pump. That is the problem with those trucks.
Yep.
Go P pump the world. It's like, nah. I mean, that's cool and all. It's cool to say you have a P pump, but I really, really like being able to fucking spend 10 minutes and plug a tuner into mine and have 180 horsepower. That's pretty cool. I'm a mechanic and I love building shit, but if it's easier, why the fuck not? It's literally the same power. It's like the same, you can get the same shit.
Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly. The only reason why people love the 12 valve so much is because you can swap it into anything because it's a fucking mechanical engine. As the people are always like, oh, why don't you 12 valve swap things? 12 valve swap. It's like, yeah, I love the 12 valve and all, but the only reason you want to 12 valve swap the world is because it's fucking easy. Go swap something that's harder. It's easy to swap a mechanical engine into a fucking 70s pickup truck, right? That's not that fucking hard. All the gauges are already mechanical. Everything's already mechanical. There's no controllers that you have to fucking have talking to each other. It's fucking easy.
That's the reason everybody's doing it.
Exactly. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, dude, the only reason everybody's 12 valve swapping everything is because it's fucking easy. Which is, like, I love 12 valves. I like Cummins engines. I've seen some pretty sick 12 valve swapped old Fords and Chevys and stuff like that, but it's like, man, you could almost do the exact same thing with a fucking 24 valve. It would just be a little bit harder. But they're standalone engines. So as long as you could get electronic gauges and shit, it would probably work. But I thought about that a lot. I'm not going to go into my whole fucking spew about 12 and 24 valve trucks because I'm going to have a lot of people hate me. I'm going to have the 12 valve guys cancel culturing me right now.
It'd be all right.
But, well, I don't know if there's anything else you want to try to cover or anything else you want to talk about. We can wrap this up. I think we covered things pretty good on the whole, like, dealership versus private industry, and switching over to the private industry and the struggles with that and the training. And I think that's something I don't think we've covered yet. So good. I don't know if there's anything else you want to cover while we're here.
I'm good if you're good.
All right. Well, thank you for being a part of the podcast. I don't know if you would like to share with everybody how they could get a hold of you, your business or social media or whatever you want to do. If not, that's fine. We can just end it. I'm supposed to ask anyways.
They can look me up on Facebook, Champion Auto Truck and Trailer Repair. Or they can message me on Facebook and I can respond back to them.
But I just like to give people a chance, like, especially when you own your own business, right? You know, share it with everybody. So, well, thank you for being on here, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.